He made his first big killing and money during the Harshad Mehta bust. India is going to achieve greatness. MBA वाले लोगों के साथ काम कर रहा हूँ. ये IIT IIM वाले लोगों के साथ मैं काम कर रहा हूँ.
Why would they know that you are a catch?
Would you like to come and work with us? I said, okay. But I said, I have two conditions. At that time, they used to give you a Maruti 800 as soon as you join.
Wow.
Now, कि entrepreneurship करना है तो उसमें भी दो मॉडल होते हैं. We have all the ingredients that are required to become a great country.
What are the factors that you think are pivotal in your decision making to say, अरे ये management अच्छा करेगा?
Invest first, investigate later.
3 good changes that you think happened in the Indian market. Hello and welcome to the NJ Show. This is your host Nukul Jain, and today I have the honor of speaking with Hiren Ved. Mr. Ved is the co-founder, director and CIO at Alchemy Capital Management. Obviously, your past experiences at Prime Securities and Choksey, and we'll dive into some of those as well. But thank you so much for making time. I know we're halfway into the conversation already with your story.
Thanks Nukul, and please don't call me Mr. Ved, just call me Hiren.
Got it. Perfect. Hiren. So we were discussing your early days. Let's start there for a bit. I know we can dive into your professional experiences, but I want to understand Hiren, the kid who grew up in Mumbai, I believe.
Yes.
So
born and brought up here.
What were your aspirations like? Who shaped those aspirations early on? And what was the influence of family, friends around you? Because those times were different, and the influences of that era were different from our influences. So walk us through the kid and what was going on in his head.
Well, I think as from what now my parents talk about when I was a kid, was a very conscientious kid, if my pronunciation is right. Bada shant, quiet, like to be with myself, quite a loner, well behaved, but very curious and very perceptive.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been the case that I was always very likable. They used to say your teachers used to love you. Very friendly, very likable, very amenable to making friends, though being a loner, but a likable character.
This is a conflict of interest. Teachers like you and you have friends also. That doesn't seem realistic to me.
Well, that was always the case.
Wow.
I don't know what part of my personality makes me so likable or affable, but this is what I was. But even now, I mean, like, while I'm very sociable and very approachable and I love company and friends, but deep down, if you ask me, can you be in a place for 3 months with nobody to talk to? I'll be very much with myself.
Wow.
I actually don't need anybody in that sense, at the very core.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's me.
That's a lot of nirvana.
That's me, the kid who was happy to be with himself.
What was the right thing to dream of during those days? Because today you would say you can do what you want, but maybe not at that time. And then what were you thinking of being like? When we say as a kid, I'll be a pilot. Nobody says I'll be in the markets, right?
Yeah. To be absolutely honest, I had no idea. I mean, I don't think I had any of those dreams to say that I want to be a doctor or an engineer or a pilot. I think I just stumbled and enjoyed and lived life until my 10th standard.
Right.
When a little bit of seriousness hit me that, okay, now, the first big choice you will have to make is कि क्या करना है आगे जाके, right? Because as you know, in those good old days, there were very clearly defined 3 areas that you could go to. या engineer बनो, या commerce में जाओ, या arts में. Arts में means like almost if you don't know anything else, if the first two is a cross, then you fall into the third category, right? It was so bad. Like today humanities, social sciences are big, but in those times arts was like, okay, you're so down the hierarchy. My thing was that कि तब मुझे ये पहले से ही मुझे था कि I always aspired to study in higher learning schools. Would you tell me that if I were to go back again, would I aspire to be an engineer versus a commerce graduate that I am? I would aspire to be an engineer.
Yeah.
Right? But obviously इतने marks नहीं थे, तो कहाँ से science में जाता? तो commerce was the default. और इतना मतलब in you know, no demeaning, but इतना बेहतर भी नहीं था कि arts में चले जाता. So
at the time you choose the middle path. The road taken. No, I feel like I missed the technology bus and I'll always regret it, but you have no reason to look back. But let's say the Hiren that was 17 years old chose a path that was taken, and then at the time you may have started thinking about what you'd want to be, what you'd want to pursue.
So I'll tell you the birth of my aspiration and the real direction I started to get, or let me put it that, as I said, up until 10th, I was like a happy-go-lucky kid. ठीक है, जो हो रहा है, चल रहा है, कर रहे हैं, right? ऐसा कोई dream नहीं था कि X बनना है, Y बनना है. Things changed when so up to 10th, I was living in a place called Vadala in Mumbai, and I had a bunch of friends and whatever. Then after 10th, my dad, we shifted houses and we came to Andheri. And that's when my dad's friends, there were two other families who were living around in the same complex.
Right.
And there were kids in and around my age. One of them was 2 years elder, one was more, and then one was literally my age. We were in the same standard, right? And that's when the competitive spirit started, because they were academically far more brilliant than I was. And in a good or bad way, there was that peer pressure to perform. Right. And that's when I started to think about what I want to be, where I want to be, right? And our family had a very long tradition of investing in equities. So the environment at home was constantly buzzing with talk about stocks and markets that my dad used to do.
So it was ingrained.
It was ingrained in the system. And that kind of got into me quite deeply. The first 2-year college, again, you know, it's newfound freedom. So you were building new friends. I was more focused on my academics at that point in time, because as I said, there was a competitive spirit that was there between me and my cousins. But then by that time, I was very clear that the stock market interests me a lot, right? And
what about it? The money?
More than the money, just the curiousness about different businesses. I used to accompany my dad to a lot of these shareholder meetings. I used to go just as a kid, as fun, like tag along with my dad. And we would sit down, and then the chairman would stand up and give a speech about the vision, about the company, the performance. And that was very awe-inspiring. And my dad would say, now keep quiet and listen to what Rahul Bajaj is saying. Listen to what Deepak Parekh is saying. Listen to what Dhirubhai Ambani is saying, right? That's when listening to these great business leaders talk about the vision and the plans of their companies was like an experience for me. Right?
It became aspirational also.
It quite became aspirational. And how my dad would then post that, discuss with his cousins and his friends and his clients about why he liked a company, and he would then translate that vision into why this company will do well because new product has been launched, or this is what the chairman said his vision is कि दीपक भाई ने बोला है कि बहुत इंडिया में तो अभी हाउसिंग में बहुत बड़ा अपॉर्चुनिटी है, you know, so on and so forth.
The charisma played a vital role in your dad's belief in the company at the time. The
Yes.
leader.
Yeah. I mean, like he would, like for him, what he would hear and, meet with people after the AGM,
Yeah.
the shareholders go next to the chairman and have like some small talk with
Yeah.
them. My dad would pick up clues from what those conversations and then make his own judgment and then build his own framework for why he should be or should not be investing in a company. So I started to build that framework in my mind, right? I started to pick small pieces of that
Like
conversation,
what
right?
were the early things in the framework that mattered to you? Like,
Right. So, I mean, obviously, my dad used to invest in a lot of MNC companies, which were consumer oriented companies like Colgate, Lever, right? And a lot of the talk used to be always around new products, right? So, I used to get very fascinated because new packaging, new products, their annual reports were very colorful. And when you flip through, they would always have photos of the new products that they have launched. And therefore, whether it is the automobile companies in those days, Bajaj Auto, right? I mean, a B2C company lives on new innovation and new products, right? Their growth is hinged on what new are you doing, or how you have improved or repackaged or rebranded an existing product, right? Same Colgate hai, lekin abhi wo Colgate gel ho gaya, फिर red ho gaya, white and red ho gaya. All that kind of. So naya bana ke. So I used to get quite enamored. Gillette, all those Procter and Gamble, Lever, all these Lipton, all Ponds, all these were companies of the 70s and 80s and then early 90s, right? So to me, the only source of information was the annual report and visiting the annual shareholders meeting. See, unlike today where there is so much of information about a business, a sector or a company or a product on the World Wide Web, access is so easy. That time access itself was a competitive edge. There was paucity of access. Just those few access points itself was a source of knowledge as well as a competitive advantage. Right? Somebody else not having put in the effort to go and visit the AGM and hear the guy. This was one thing which I used to do regularly because the chairman's speeches were published in the newspaper those days. And I used to read them line by line, underline them, right? Because there was a lot of information there in that.
Got it. So because there were few points of accessing information, every access became very relevant
and important.
Crucial for your decision making as well.
Exactly. And for learning more about the company.
When you entered the market, was it your passion for the markets that got you in there, or were you clear that you want to take the entrepreneurial route or work for someone? How do you, because a lot of youngsters, when we are clear what our passion is, we still have those two choices. Should I work for someone? Should I work and then pursue entrepreneurship? Either we glorify entrepreneurship and think that we are not good enough, so we are not doing it, or we find employment very secure and we say, you know what, this is the way to go. How did you think about it?
So I mean, longer term, since my dad himself was an entrepreneur, it was very clear that I also want to be an entrepreneur. But पहले वो बोलते थे ना कि the way your dad would explain you, पहले experience ले लो, gain some experience, then do something.
True.
And the route to gaining that experience, because my dad's business was like a one-man show. How will I gain experience just being with him? So when he says gain experience, it meant go to a slightly bigger place where it's a little bit institutionalized, so to speak, where it's not a one-man business, right? So you went to a family-owned business. So in those days, obviously, my dad took me to his broker, who was KR Choksey, and said, he has a lot of interest in the stock market. Ab ye aapka, aap isko sambhalo, right? That's how it used to be. So he said, okay, you start coming to the office and learning, right? So you were not worried about what you will get paid.
Yeah.
You were not, your only focus was that I'm here to learn and gain experience, so-called experience.
But how do you convince yourself in that phase that this is going to pay off one day? Because, for example, today we get a lot of high paying jobs straight out of college, and irrespective of what it entails or what the work is, we are biased towards taking it up because we'll save up early. So, how do you balance that in the decision making process?
Well, I think I had to be reconciled to the fact I always wanted to do an MBA, right? Dad said, क्या करेगा MBA करके? उससे better है experience ले, right? And I was very reconciled कि यार मतलब if you want a good paying job, then you need to be something. You need to be a CA or an MBA.
Yeah.
I was neither. So my expectations initially from monetary gain were very low. So I said, for me to get monetary gain is something which I can aspire a little bit later in life, but पहले सीख लेते हैं. Let's learn the profession. So instead of a academic degree, my path to monetary gain would be experience. So as I looked at it, there were two paths to monetary gain, right? One is कि आप पढ़ लिख लो बहुत अच्छी institution से, MBA कर लो, CA कर लो, और उसके बाद because of your qualification, you straight away start at a certain monetary value on day one in any job, right? I said, because I don't have a great formal education other than BCom has no value, frankly, even in those days, right? And I was very clear that I didn't want to do CA because one thing which I detested was that कि वो बोलते थे कि आपको वो वाउचर टिक करने पड़ेंगे वो 3 साल जो
same reason
I said I can't do that. So I did cost accounting because cost accounting in those days you could do post your 12th simultaneously with BCom.
Yeah.
तो बोलते थे कि BCom में तो ऐसा क्या है तो एक और कोर्स साथ में कर लो. Make some good use of your time.
Yeah.
So that's how I did both of them together. So by the time I was a BCom, I was within next 3 months I was also a cost accountant.
Yeah.
But cost accountant की कोई सी value नहीं थी. वो बोलने के लिए पोस्ट कर दिया, right? So that people don't look at you even lower के यार सिर्फ BCom किया तुमने 5 साल.
वापस वो आर्ट्स और साइंस के बीच का कोई रास्ता कॉमर्स
तो बोल सकते थे कि हाँ BCom किया लेकिन BCom के साथ कॉस्ट अकाउंटिंग भी किया है. मतलब
ऊपर वो काजू कतली पे कैसे चढ़ा देते वर्क.
थोड़ा सा फॉइल भी है. That kind of a thing.
But these are elements of a long-term thinker, right? Did you naturally feel at home in this long-term investment world that you were in? Because at the time, I'm guessing 5 years, 10 years, holding a stock for that period of time was the norm, at least.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that because also dad always used to, and some of my uncles who were also very avid investors always used to say कि investing is for the long term. Right?
Yeah.
So you kind of thought similar about your career as well कि अभी ये long term है, इसको तो अभी बहुत experience लेना है, बहुत काम करना है, right? You have to do a lot of this. So frankly, the monetary part hit me like midway into my job, right? And like, okay, with all due respect, I learned a lot, but you used to get like a peanuts, right? And then you started to feel कि यार मतलब कुछ तो मिलना चाहिए लाइफ में, राइट? अभी ठीक है 2 साल 3 साल कर लिया, सीख लिया, बहुत काम कर लिया, अब इसका मॉनेटरी बेनिफिट कब मिलेगा? And that was there at the back of my mind for a long time until I got a break to join Prime Securities.
Right.
And Prime Securities was that firm, as they used to say in those days, it was a day zero company on campus, not even day one, which means that if the students knew that they were coming to campus, like they would be willing to kind of blindly sign on to work with the firm.
Aspirational.
Right? Aspirational, very aspirational, like working with a lever or a McKinsey or, at various points in time.
Wow.
The image that the firm had created because of who they hired. So they hired a bunch of very smart people from Citibank and Bank of America. They were all, again, MBAs from IIM. So they were wanting to build Prime on the model of a Goldman of India or a Lehman Brothers of India, right? All MBAs, cutting edge, bright kids, like with adrenaline, building a business, right?
I can't help but feel this is subprime.
This was very good one. Yeah. So for me, that was like a dream come true, right? But so I thought that, I hit a, at least मैं MBA नहीं बना, लेकिन मैं MBA वाले लोगों के साथ काम कर रहा हूँ. ये IIT IIM वाले लोगों के साथ मैं काम कर रहा हूँ. वही एक अलग हाई था.
How did they evaluate that experience? Like, why would they know that you are a catch for them?
So my dad and a friend of mine, Ashish Kacholia, his dad, both used to do broking at the same firm. And they had become friends. And then Ashish had just finished his MBA from Jamnalal Bajaj, and he was hired in Prime as a campus interview, through that. And his boss was Rakesh Shah, who runs Edelweiss now, right? Wow. And their boss was N. Jaykumar, who still continues to now own and run Prime. In the good old days, he was the CEO of Prime, right? So they internally must have discussed कि अपने को team में we want somebody who has experience of equity research. And because Ashish knew me, we had met a couple of times, he must have gone and told his boss, "Yaar, I know one guy who has done equity research before. Why don't we?" So his boss would have said, "Tum usko office bulao." So I thought, one day Ashish told me, "Ki you come to the office, my boss wants to meet, just generally to discuss markets." I said, "Theek hai, chal." I went, we spoke about a couple of stocks, what stocks you like, why do you like them. So I thought that just generally they want to discuss about some few companies. So I said, "These are the companies I visited, I like this, blah, blah, blah." So ho gaya. And he said, "Ke milte rehna chahiye, we should keep meeting." So I said, "Okay, chalo." Acha meeting hua, baat kar liya, back home. Then a couple of days later, again Ashish came and said, "Look, boss again wants to meet you." I said, "Okay, chalo jate hain." I went again. He also started talking, "Okay, what do you think of the markets? What stocks you like?" And then suddenly I never knew that a job is going to be offered to me. So he offered a job to me and said that, "Would you like to come and work with us?" And I was like taken aback. Like I didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
But then I quickly, my instincts came very quickly and saying, "Yaar, ye क्या बोल रहा है, मतलब job यहाँ पे, मतलब in this hallowed institution, right?" And I quickly, from my trance, I got back into the conversation and said, so I said, what do you expect me to do? And he said, "Look, we are building an equities team, and we want somebody who has done equity research, and both Ashish has spoken very highly of you, and we would like to offer you a job." I said, "Okay." But I said, "I have two conditions." He said, "What?" I said, "Look, I'm not an MBA." So I had that little self, this doubt or whatever, ke yahan pe to sab ye stars ho aap log. So I hope my progress will not be hindered by the fact that I'm not an MBA, right? So I will be treated fairly. He said, "Don't worry about that. That's my word to you." And I said, "I want to do my CFA. So I need a few days of leave to study. I hope I'll get those leaves to study." And he said, "Okay, that also granted. Now what else?" I said, "No, nothing. I'm okay." And obviously the opening salary there was like top end, very phenomenal in those days.
Wow.
And you used to get a very good salary. So I said, "यार, जो MBAs को मिलता है, और plus मेरा तो experience भी था, तो they pegged me slightly higher than the entry level guys." Plus, at that time, they used to give you a Maruti 800 as soon as you joined.
Wow.
Now, can you imagine the high?
Oh wow.
A great check
That is
and a car as soon
cocaine
as
of
you
that
join.
era.
एकदम, right? So मैं तो बोला यार राजू बन गया gentleman.
Crazy. Wow.
Right? This is like, what else do you get in life?
What you couldn't do was done by people who were reporting to you at that point, and what you couldn't afford was being offered to you. So that experience, that learning, it all paid off in the form of that job at Prime.
That break that I got at
I'm
Prime.
guessing it was a pivotal. So KR Choksey was pivotal for Prime, and Prime was pivotal then for your next move as well.
Yeah, I think let me put it this way, at KR Choksey, I was like blinkers into analyzing companies, meeting companies, going for AGM. So I really learned the basic fundamentals of equity research.
Mm-hmm.
Prime opened my view to the world. कि क्या होता है, right? Various entrepreneurs would walk into the office. They want to raise capital, good, bad, ugly, all kinds of people, right? We used to travel quite often. We had to go and research a company where the company was doing a deal or an advisory deal. So let me put that I saw the world. I interacted with a much greater ecosystem in the economy.
So access was also a big part of the...
access, opportunity to talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and management teams, right? See, in KR Choksey, you were like in the audience and you were interacting with the management. In Prime, you were part of some transaction or some dealing that the firm was doing with the corporate. Wow. So your access was at a very different level, right? So I think that was a great experience. It opened my my perspective about how things work, how big finance works, how money is raised.
You're in the big leagues now. So
kind of in the big leagues, right? Yeah. You're walking the corridors of power and real corporate India. And then for whatever reason, for its own reasons, Prime was at its prime. And then, it wasn't doing as great as a firm. And then slowly I felt that, I don't think that there's much now
in terms of growth.
There are a lot of constraints. And that's when I thought now the time has come to, what I had thought earlier. That अब entrepreneur बहुत experience हो गया, 9 साल काम कर लिया तुमने, अब enough of experience, now let's get into the big bad world of equities. And at that time SEBI was very encouraging of professionals coming into the equity markets. Luckily what do you define as professional is that if any postgraduate degree is a professional or a professional degree is a professional. So if you're an MBA, CA, luckily cost accounting was also part of it. तो बोला यार,
so ऊपर का
foil थोड़ा चमका.
Love it.
Right? So when you take these career defining decisions, you kind of sit with your best buddies who are my current partners, Lashit and Ashwin. They were also very similar age. We had a very accidental meeting in 1991 at an AGM of annual shareholder meeting of a company called United Phosphorus.
Yeah.
This was in 91 at Vapi when me and my dad had gone, and then Lashit and Ashwin, who were friends out of college, also had similarly deep interest in the equity markets, had also landed up there in Vapi, and we became friends. We started talking because we were the only employees who had landed up. कौन जाता है यार वापी 1991 में कोई कंपनी का एनुअल जनरल मीटिंग अटेंड करने? बॉम्बे में फिर भी लोग आ जाते हैं, फ्री का कुछ चाय नाश्ता मिल जाता है. तो AGMs are mostly that, right? But passion था, सीखना था उस कंपनी के बारे में. We wanted to research that company. So that's where we became friends. And all through my journey while I was at KR Choksey and Prime, we remained friends. We used to discuss ideas, stock market ideas quite often. And they had formed Alchemy already. And in 96, 97, RJ, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, had invested and became one of the partners in Alchemy. But at that time, they also had set up a broking firm, Alchemy Share and Stock Brokers.
Yeah.
This was in 96, 97. So I was great friends with them. We used to do business as well. In Prime, I used to broke one of the brokers through them. I used to do deals with them, so on and so forth. And in 99, I told Lashit and Ashwin कि यार अभी मैं quit कर रहा हूँ, बहुत हो गया, अपना खुद का करना है. तो they said अच्छी बात है, मतलब करना चाहिए. जैसे we have also chosen this.
And Alchemy is doing well at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small broking firm, but it's doing well in its own right. There were 3 partners, RJ, Lashit and Ashwin, who had already set up a broking firm.
And RJ was RJ at the time as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
RJ was RJ at that time as well. He made his first big killing and money during the Harshad Mehta bust by shorting the markets, right? In 92.
Yeah.
And he had made a name for himself.
Yeah.
And so when I said this over a conversation, it so came about that all 3 of us had the same passion for the markets. For them, entering into the market and institutionalizing them was to become a broker. But a broker with a differentiation की research करते हैं, not just phone उठा के value addition करते हैं. So then we came to a thought that why don't we all get together and start a asset management company, which is Alchemy Capital.
ये term था तभी asset management.
था. Actually, we were ahead of the curve at that time. So if you see, most brokers took a PMS portfolio management services license within the broking business, right?
Okay.
But if you see the more evolved markets like the US, they would say that the sell side business, which is broking or investment banking, and a buy side business, which is asset management, are always 2 different businesses. There should be a Chinese wall between them because there was always an inherent conflict of interest.
True.
But India तभी इतना sophisticated नहीं था. Brokers thought doing portfolio management services is a value add beyond broking. So आप broking करते हो तो brokerage मिलता है, आप money manage करते हो तो fees मिलता है. But we were very clear कि these 2 are different businesses. So we set up a separate company.
Okay.
We had mirror shareholding across both. Right. So the way it started was that the broking company was the parent company, and we set up 100% sub under that, which was the asset management. And
separate legal entity.
This separate legal entity applied for a asset management license to SEBI. Right. And then later on, much later, we demerged the 2 businesses. So the broking business was separate and the asset management.
So Alchemy Broking still exists?
No, we sold that business in 2009 or 10, right?
Okay.
Because
got it.
We realized कि यार मतलब our thought process, our passion was more investing rather than intermediation.
Yeah.
You know, a broker is an intermediary at the end of the day.
कुछ होते रहता है.
कुछ ना कुछ होते रहता है. Deal, you know, it's all very deal and transaction driven. Yeah. Obviously, it's relationship driven also. So I think, and then finally we said, yaar, you know, if you want to be in a business, then we should be like in the top 2, 3, 4. Then it makes sense.
True.
And in broking, it was a very competitive business. And we were not in that top few large brokers. You know, a lot of the banks and the Kotaks and the, you know, the big brands had come into broking as well.
Yeah.
And more than anything else, I think we thought that our real passion is investing, right? And also we saw a big need because there were not too many professional money managers at that time. And SEBI was very keen to have जो बोलते हैं पढ़े लिखे लोग.
Blind leading the blind नहीं होना चाहिए.
Blind leading the blind नहीं होना चाहिए. they should come and they encourage कि हम आपको license देंगे if you apply for it.
Yeah.
So in 99, I decided that I quit Prime. And, in those days, because Prime was such a...
क्या कर दिया?
Ki, we made it to the Economic Times. Ki, Hiren Ved and couple of other of my colleagues also quit at the same time. So ET में article आ गया कि ये लोग निकल गए.
Join करना was a statement, निकलना was a bigger statement.
हाँ.
Love it.
Right. So people were very inquisitive कि अरे क्या हो रहा है? Next what? Right. So that's when in 99 I decided that okay. फिर थोड़ा सा बुद्धि चला कि एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप करना है तो उसमें भी 2 मॉडल होते हैं. एक तो आप खुद ही सब करो. सो देन आई वुड हैव हैड टू सेट अप माय ऑफिस एंड माय स्टाफ एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. एंड हियर वी थॉट दैट एक प्लेटफॉर्म तो ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग है. एक एंटिटी तो है, शेयर एंड स्टॉक ब्रोकर्स, स्टाफ है, रिसर्च है, क्लाइंट्स हैं, रिलेशनशिप्स है, आरजे है.
They are off the ground.
They are off the ground. So aligning will be a great idea, right? And that's how I decided that entrepreneurship करते हैं, लेकिन partnership में करते हैं. So that's how Alchemy Capital Management got formed. And I became the 4th partner. Those 3 were already partners.
Yeah.
I became the 4th partner in Alchemy.
So
and then
what was this phase like of Alchemy? So Alchemy obviously has grown into one of the biggest capital management firms in the country. But when you look back and connect the dots, was it some mentorship from RJ? What was it? You having great tailwinds? What worked for Alchemy?
So I think in those early days, if you ask me, there were no tailwinds. In fact, it was a headwind because, the tech bust had happened. Post 2000, the whole bubble had burst, the tech bubble had burst. And the markets were down and the sentiment was not that great.
You lost money?
We didn't lose money. Actually, we so interestingly, we rode the entire tech boom. We had bought a lot of tech stocks in India. We rode the tech boom, and in the fever of 2000 boom, हमको लगा कि यार ये valuation समझ में नहीं आ रहा है अपने को कि क्यों ऐसा है. And Nasdaq was at its
30-40% of your portfolio I read was
all tech.
Yeah.
Right. So we sold a lot of our tech shares because we couldn't understand the valuations. But also we were quite young and immature at that time as well, right? So we thought, so while we were applying to SEBI for the portfolio management license, and हमको नहीं पता था 1 साल लगेगा, 2 साल लगेगा, कितना time, how much time will it take for us to get that license? And because we had made a lot of money in tech, we thought like हमको तो tech समझ में आता है. So we set up a small venture fund called Alchemy Ventures in those times, right? And little bit money that what we had earned in the listed markets by selling all our tech stocks, we said कि हम venture capitalists बन जाएंगे, right? So few friends of ours, like our personal money and RJ's money and Ashish and a couple of other friends, we got together and we बड़ा नहीं, मतलब छोटा 20-25 करोड़ का venture fund, but उस time में भी it was a decent sum of money, right? And we started scouting for companies and investing in companies. So we had already made 3-4 investments. That was another phase of life, though it was a very short phase of life. We did very bold things at that time, right? So we took a team of people who were doing wireless internet technology, which for software technology parks. They were a system integrator.
Okay.
Right. So if there is somebody is putting in those days, the government used to set up software technology parks where they would give you connectivity, bandwidth. It was like an SEZ area. तभी का SEZ type.
Okay.
और वहाँ पे सब software companies would come. So they would need high bandwidth for software. Yeah. So उस टाइम पे इंटरनेट वाज अ न्यू थिंग. ISP, इंटरनेट सर्विस प्रोवाइडर लाइसेंस देते थे. So we caught hold of 2 entrepreneurs in Pune who were doing this, rolling out these wireless networks for STPIs, and we told them कि तुम आ जाओ, हम पैसा डालते हैं. We hired a COO from BPL Telecom, like typical venture style in the US, right? एक idea है, दो entrepreneur को लो, नया company करो, उसमें पैसा डालो, professionals को hire करो, और from a system integrator you become a service provider of building high wireless internet bandwidth, right? तो हमने वो सब भी बहुत किया. वो that's a long story, but for 2-3 years we did that venture fund. Luckily we didn't lose too much money. We got out in time. Our biggest investment, which was this, cost to cost निकल गए. Bust के बाद पैसा वापस घर पे आया, and then we realized कि बॉस ये अपना काम नहीं है. ये this is venture investing and early stage investing is private equity is very different. Let's stick to what we understand, which is public market investing. So by that time we had got our license, and in 2002 we started managing money.
And so when you started Alchemy PMS
Ji.
and the subsidiary started taking off, there must have been some things that you did amazingly well and some things that you did terribly wrong. Let's focus on the good first.
So I think our timing was perfect. We literally got the bottom of the market in 2002 because the real boom started from 2003. So I think our timing was perfect. And as in any business, right, you start with a few clients. So we started with 7 clients and 5 crores on day one, right? And then slowly and steadily, as our performance spoke for itself, existing clients referred new clients, we started getting noticed. Obviously, RJ's association and name also played a very significant role.
How so? Can you give us some examples?
Well, I mean, he had no business. He was just managing his own money, right?
Yeah.
But he was such a successful investor that everybody wanted to talk to him and know what he was doing.
Yeah.
But how do they get to him?
So Alchemy was access to his mind.
So people, we never misrepresented that,
of course.
If they give money to us, RJ is managing. But somehow they all knew that RJ is involved in Alchemy, right? He's one of the founders. So obviously his reputation, his stature of the markets and his brand helped. Yeah. Also, I think we all have learned a lot from him. He was a true mentor, a kind of a friend, philosopher, guide to us, right? He never intervened in the day-to-day business.
Yeah. But
we learned a lot about markets from him. And I think our confidence in 2002, because he had written an article in ET in 2002 that India is at the cusp of a long-term structural bull market. And his words were so prophetic, right? So I think that his bullishness also gave us the conviction and the confidence to really play the markets very bull, because people in those days were very skeptical about the market, right? Because they got hurt after the tech bust.
So that optimism
thoda sa the market would give a return. Everybody wanted to book profits and go home. Like they never thought ki we should hold on to our investments for long term, because they didn't really get the big picture right.
Yeah.
I think what propelled us was our timing was right. Our performance was great. And I think thanks to RJ, we got the big picture right.
Yeah.
So we rode our investments rather than churning and selling and booking profits and stuff like that.
Before we move on to your overall view on markets and how it's evolved over the years, I wanted to know, like you said, a lot of people had conviction in Alchemy and in you because there was some brand value that RJ held. So now that he's unfortunately left us, if there are key takeaways from your learnings with the time you spent with him, what would they be that you think will always be relevant? Some evergreen learnings during your time with him?
So first of all, like Warren Buffett always used to say that bet on America. Don't bet against America. I think RJ was one of those very early and very few people, I would say, not just among marketsmen, but even amongst businessmen or, leaders in various fields of life, who really believed from the bottom of his heart and the gut of his stomach that India is going to achieve greatness, that this country has a lot of opportunity, right? That there is too much of self-doubt about ourselves as Indians. But he saw the potential in India because he saw that we have all the ingredients that are required to become a great country, right? The same things that we talked about. But I think he believed in it. Not only did he believe for the sake of lecturing, but he put his money where his mouth is. All his money was made betting on Indian companies, on Indian entrepreneurs, on the India growth story, on the Indian economic, on the sustainability of India's economic growth, right? Because he saw that the pace of change in India may be slow as compared when people typically tend to compare us to other Asian tigers and China, which move very quickly. India was always seemed to be very chaotic, at odds with others. We take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Despite all of that, he always believed that this country will move ahead, right? So I think first and foremost, what we learned from him was that be positive, be an optimist. Top-down optimism on India. That it is worth betting your careers and your lives on betting that India will do well. Right? So that was one. Second, I think that he, in a sense, was a great value investor, but more than that, he understood risk very well. While people would always think of him as a mad bull, but I think that he was an ultimate risk taker, but somebody who understood risk extremely well, right? So how to assess risk versus the reward, which is the cornerstone of investing, right, was very important, right? And he always bet on people. So while the opportunity and the business was important, but ultimately he bet on people, right? So betting on the right entrepreneur. So even when we invest, we can have theories around, okay, this is a great business. This is an explosive opportunity. But what makes a great investment is, yes, you need the opportunity, you need a fast growing business, but you need the right people with the right DNA to execute.
What do you mean by that? So if you talk about the right DNA in the management, for example, you go to these AGM, you talk to so many people in the management of listed companies. What are the factors that you think are pivotal in your decision making to say, "Arey, ye management अच्छा करेगा"?
See, there are 2 ways to look at it, right? So one is that if you go to a management which has had a previous track record, then at least you have history to fall back on. Ki theek hai, so far in the last few years, they have done so well. There is a track record. There is a performance that you can evaluate, right? But more often than not, frankly, if you ask me, it's a very subjective assessment. Yes, you can do a little bit of objective assessment by, if at all there is a past history, because numbers speak for themselves, right? How you've run a business and putting that business in the context of the economy at that time tells you a lot about the quality of the people who are running the business. As they say that when there are tailwinds, everybody looks like a hero. But how did you run your business when things were not great? What kind of calls did you take, right? So assessing people is part, you can quantify it by looking at the history. But to me, a lot of it is judgment when you sit across the table, right? The feel that you get, the answers. So as they, in computing, as they say, garbage in, garbage out, right? I was always taught this, that the quality of the answers will depend on the quality of the questions that you ask, right? So if you have that skill of asking the right questions and
hitting personally,
and there are a few tricks, right, where you you can lead a guy,
elicit the right response,
or you want to know whether you lead him or the wrong way, and then you see whether he is leading along with you and how he's answering. So these were things that we've learned over the years, right? It was not taught anywhere, but I think asking a lot of right questions and then trying to elicit the right response, you get that. But I believe that investing in a company or a stock which has very little history to go by is like hiring a person. I always use this analogy, right? So, before hiring, you have a CV which has all the details about the person, his experiences, track record, his educational qualifications, his interests, everything. That's like me reading the annual report and everything that is publicly available on a company. Then you call that person for a couple of rounds of interviews. That's like me going and talking to the CFO or CEO of the company, asking a lot of questions on the business. Why this expansion? What about this? What are your margins? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then they give you a few references. So you pick up the phone and do a reference check on that potential employee. What do you think about the guy? You worked with him. What are his strong, weak points? That's like me doing what they call in our industry channel checks or background checks or 360-degree checks. You talk to a competitor, supplier, customer, trying to get a sense of, and then you think you know everything about the guy. So you hire him or her. But that's 20% of the work done. The real fun starts when that person starts working with you day in and day out. In good times, in bad times, in challenging times, in uncertain times. How does that person react? How does he execute day to day? How does he deal with challenges?
Then so you're still on your toes.
So, no, what I mean is that the true character, more about a person 2 years down the line after he or she has worked with you, as opposed to when you first took his interview.
100%.
So we all take decision based on limited information. And we think we know everything about that. The same is with a company. No matter how much research you do on a company, you think you've done every study that you can. You've looked at the last 10 years balance sheet. You've read everything about the company. You spoke to the competitor. You've done your numbers. You've done your modeling. Believe you me, that's just 20% of the work done.
So even when you take the call, you still are alert to understand what they are doing when you're already long on the company.
Exactly. So, then quarter after quarter, year after year, as the company performs, right? And you don't know, you can't predict the external environment.
True.
How did they capitalize on an opportunity? What happened when things went against them? What kind of calls did they take? A lot of that along the way gives you the character of a company.
Got it.
So I think that assessing a business, a lot of people think कि सब research कर लो, फिर book बंद कर दो, आपने invest कर दिया, story over, फिर या आपको profit होगा या loss होगा. So I think that to answer your question, that I think he was a great judge of people. And then he had an initial judgment, and then he built a lasting impression or a conviction about a set of people.
So it was a fluid judgment at first, and he evolved it over time as
sometimes you are taught कि लोग इतना research करते हैं कि they are not able to take a decision. Right? And he coined this word, invest first, investigate later.
Very nice.
Right?
Very nice.
So, so he used to always say that on very broad parameters, if they kind of fit into his framework, the risk reward was fine, the price was fine, broadly आदमी ठीक लगता है, opportunity बड़ा है, invest करो. Then
observe.
You really get into the crosshairs of that company. You start understanding every variable, you start understanding the nuances of the business, and then you optimize, which means if you really feel something is good, then you buy more, double down, triple down, right? But if at the first instance, if you try to see, the problem is that you can't approach this business of investing while it seems like it is all rational and it is all, everything has to fit into a certain framework. It's not that simple. You need a process. There has to be a method to the madness. But investing is about investing in uncertainty. You're investing, you think you know everything.
Knowing that you don't know everything is the key. I think is the key. Mark Twain says most people fail in life not for what they don't know, but for what they know for sure that ain't so.
Exactly, right? So you get so caught up in the process that you forget to see the big picture. So I think that gut, the instinct is very important in investing.
No, that's lovely. I know we have limited time with you. I am going crazy trying to filter down the questions, but let's get into the last 3-4 minutes of rapid fire, because there are some things that my friends also want to know from you.
Sure.
So in your 30 plus years of experience in the market, what's the good change, 3 good changes that you think happened in the Indian market?
Lot of transparency.
Okay.
Right. I think the structure of the Indian market, I think one of the areas where India truly is ahead, neck to neck or even ahead of the West, is the efficiency and the structure of the Indian markets. And what I mean by that is electronic trading, the settlement system, the standards of disclosure are probably at par, right? And I think what we call the ease of doing business that we keep hearing. In many industries, we are so far away from ease of doing business, right? Matlab, you ask anybody who runs a real business, kitne license lene padte hain, kitne tax authority ke saath matha pachi karna padta hai, labor
that's
law.
That's the barrier to entry.
That's a barrier to entry. In our business, the barrier to entry is zero. Because the ease of business is, zero in the sense technically, nothing is zero, but the ease, because the level of technological superiority that we have brought into the structure of the market is phenomenal. From where we were to the paper trading days and, less transparency to where we are today.
So transparency, ease
so
of doing business.
I think what it means is that you spend less time on the non-critical parts of the business and more time on really the job of investing. So I think the transparency levels and the ease with which you can transact in India and invest in India
has changed for the better.
Phenomenal. It's changed for the better. I think the other thing which has changed dramatically is the democratization of entrepreneurship, right? What I mean by that is that if you see the structure is that, it used to be the Tatas, the Birlas, the Ambanis. The existing business houses always had an edge.
Concentrated growth
because it was so difficult to do business. That an existing guy who already had a structure, a certain capability to manage the environment was always at the forefront of capturing a growth opportunity. I think the last few years, risk capital is available to young new entrepreneurs. Right? So today, for example, while we may say that which is the best food delivery company, it's not from any of the existing powerhouses. It's a new entrepreneur who has created virtually an industry from zero, right? And who has created a fabulous business today. Neither Swiggy nor Zomato are from any of the established business houses.
So that democratization.
And you can say that what was lacking with the Ambanis or the Tatas that they couldn't build this, right? Technology है, TCS है, मतलब उनके उसमें people who say technology हाँ है, technology है, capital है, brand है, सब कुछ है, but they are nowhere in the league tables, right? So I think and RJ always used to say why Indians went abroad and became successful, because they got a platform to excel.
सही है.
अगर आप में दम है, आप में risk taking capacity है, you have the entrepreneurship bug in you, you could go and shine and build a business.
So right? that's something that you think.
So I think the access to capital, the defragmentation of business it's not a great level playing field, but at least it's vastly enhanced from what we've seen in the past. Anybody can dream. Anybody can dream to be, right? So when people come and say, "Yeah," I said, "Look, Indian entrepreneurship, for every Uber, we created an Ola. For every Amazon, you created a Flipkart. Zomato and Swiggy are homemade, homegrown companies, right? I mean, a Flipkart fought with an Amazon and became Flipkart.
Yeah.
So much so that Walmart had to come and acquire a Flipkart, right?
100%.
So I think that some of our colonial past of language, see, English is the language of the internet, right? I think those were, while we were colonized, we lost 200, 300 years. We also got something inadvertently, right? We got the English language. And I think that this country truly, to my view, has what is required to become a great nation.
I think that optimism is needed for us to even be bullish. But before we move to our last Startup Kida segment, on the bad, the things that have changed for the worse, maybe I'll share my 2 cents on this. You spoke about transparency in the markets going up and ease of doing business. But at the same time, I thought that, our market would need informed investors as well.
Yes.
With the information asymmetry still playing a vital role in our markets, with people who are getting into markets because of the fad without having the right tools and skill sets to invest. I think that ease of investing without the fundamental knowledge and skilling of the investor is probably, in my view, a bit of a risk, or we moved faster on one aspect than the other.
Yes.
But I'd love your take on things that have changed for the worse, including this.
No, I think you're right but I think that's also changed in the last few years with the way, at least the mutual fund industry has done a great job by evangelizing investing in mutual fund sahi hai.
True.
The whole SIP culture.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that Indians are, as they say, as Amartya Sen said, Indians are very argumentative, right? We like to talk, we like to discuss, right? So I think that the internet and the transparency and the digital medium has helped in plugging that gap of knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? Because access to knowledge no longer meant that I need the help of an expert.
Yeah.
Yes, you always needed role models, and RJ was like a role model. Even today, people tell me, right, we miss this guy because, like, in all this confusion about market बहुत expensive है, small mid caps बहुत चल गए, कोई दिशा दिखाने वाला नहीं है. मतलब we would have really loved to know his views on what he thought today. There are a lot of great people.
That's a lasting legacy,
right? There are a lot of great people who still come, who are wise men, who talk, but people still miss that guy because he did it selflessly. He spoke his mind. But to answer your question, I think that it'll always happen because when growth happens organically, it's not top down.
Yeah.
Something will be, in
lagging.
Some places you'll be ahead of the curve, somewhere you're lagging, and then eventually it all catches up, right?
Yeah.
I think that, but I think that you needed a few role models of success, of doing things the right way. Right. Unfortunately, we had a few role models in the early stages of the development of the equity markets, which were not the most perfect models, which led to scams. Harshad Mehta, Ketan Parekh, right? But then I think now there is not one, but there can be several role models, right? Because the market has deepened. There are several ways, styles of investing. And I think now information is more available and people are also self-learning this business of investing.
Is that a good thing, or do you think, because this talk about technical value, growth, etc., obviously things have changed over time. So do you think it's a good thing people are finding their own style of investing and taking risks in the market, or do you still think the fundamentals that were relevant 30 years ago are still relevant?
See, this question was asked to me earlier, right? And I say that the basic fundamentals of investing never change. Right? Cash flow, profitability, return on capital, governance, nothing of this changes. Right? Whether technology changes, businesses changed, completely new businesses that you've never thought of came. Now, just because you're a food delivery company or you're an electric vehicle manufacturer, doesn't mean that you can allocate capital the way you want. Doesn't mean that you can run a business or sustain a business with no cash flows for years together.
True.
Yeah, there are a few models where people, the whole Silicon Valley model of saying that don't worry about near-term profitability, but build scale and a business of value without really bothering about current profitability.
That lesson they've learned the hard way recently. But Jeff Bezos says, like, plan for what will not change, not for what will change.
Yes.
So these are things that won't change with time.
It will not change. So I think the principles of investing are timeless, right? You needed two things. You needed role models, because individuals, human beings, always relate to people. Right? There are some people who are happy to read a book and learn, but very few people can do that. Self-learn.
Lead the masses.
You need somebody to lead the masses. Right? So I think today both are available. You needed good role models, but you also needed the tools. If somebody wanted to study on his own and become wise, then today everything is available.
For the last part, this is my favorite part, which is the Startup Kida segment. Let's say now Hiren is not running Alchemy Capital Management at all, and you have access to the capital that you want. If you had to venture out of this and start up, what is that one problem you think is worth solving today, and how would you approach that in a nutshell?
I think it's interesting. First of all, RJ used to say that businesses are not built because of capital. Businesses are built on opportunity and execution. Right? So whether anybody gave me capital or not, I mean, obviously every business requires some capital, but at least our business does not require that much capital. It requires skills and understanding and wisdom and the ability to execute that. Right? I think one thing that the environment offers today, which I could leverage, is the whole digital medium, right? And we were discussing this very recently in one of our meetings. That so a very basic question was asked, that how do you get your clients, right? Outside of the fact that some banks or advisors were selling you. And we said that the good old way was that through references. You are my customer, you are a happy customer, you refer me to the next customer, you refer me to the next customer. But it was a very organic, long process of acquiring customers. In the digital world, if you are my customer and you are a happy customer, how do I leverage that? Right? You have 200 connections. today I can get to those 200 connections in the digital world much faster than organically going to you and saying, sir, you are so happy with me. Can you refer me to your friend and give me, right? I think I would use the technology today to accelerate the scale of my business, to accelerate my ability to present myself and my service to a much wider audience without the limitations of physical boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I can reach to a guy sitting in Silicon Valley and earning $1 million and wanting to invest in India.
Yeah.
Right. Even today, there are so many access points. Like a guy there doesn't know how to invest in India today.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that I would really, I mean, today, if I were to start this business, I think I can scale it much faster using the digital medium, both to acquire customers and also to evangelize my brand and my philosophy across the world.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it could have taken 30 years to get here, but maybe, as you said before this conversation, that there are people who got here in 5-10 years because they had access to a lot more customers, connections, etc.
Yeah.
So I believe the next phase of...
But I one thing which you said, which I can't crunch, is my 30 years of experience.
That is very true. I think that is the edge. And as you said, the fundamentals don't change. So you're going to continue to have that edge, and hopefully Alchemy reaches the stars. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate you being a great audience. We don't need you to like, share or subscribe, but if this impacts your life in any way, I think this will be a successful podcast. Thank you so much, Hiren. It's a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Nukul.